left her cheeks all the more prominent. Her expression was blank, her jaw slack. She moaned softly, but didn't wake. She had been unconscious for more than 24 hours. She was the tallest woman he'd ever seen, fully 6 feet tall, but that appealed to him. He had never been fond of petite, fragile women. He liked a woman to be an armful. Yet, despite her height, there was something childlike about her. She had a look of innocence about her that was fresh and appealing. He supposed that accounted, at least in part, for his decision to bring her back to his cabin. He couldn't give himself a satisfactory reason for that decision, except that a gut instinct told him she wouldn't be safe in Albuquerque. 3 men had twice tried to kill her. He was certain they would try again. Turning away from the bed, Tyler brought a table over to the bed, then a chair. Next, he poured some water into a basin, set it on the table, and got some strips of cloth and a tin of ointment from the shelf. Seating himself in the chair next to the bed, he began to clean her wounds. She moaned again, louder this time, and rolled her head from side to side. He was afraid she might injure herself, so he held her head still. She fought him, her mouth trying to form half-syllables. Tyler wiped some of the blood from the side of her face. It had dried hard. He cleaned her face and forehead. There was something compelling about this woman, something more than her size and innocence. Maybe it was the way she had lain lifeless under his touch, vulnerable and helpless. Maybe it was the fact that if he didn't take care of her, she could die. She stopped trying to move her head. She kept trying to form words, but no sound came out of her mouth. He soaked the blood from her hair until he was able to see where the bullet had grazed her skull, leaving a wound at least 5 inches long. It had burrowed under the skin and followed the curve of the skull before exiting. She would have a scar for the rest of her life, but she would live. Her eyelids quivered. She seemed to be trying to form a word beginning with a W. Her eyelids moved, opened, then closed again. "Everything's all right," Tyler said in a soothing voice. "You're safe. You can go back to sleep." He covered the raw gash with a liberal coating of a whitish salve, then began wrapping the strips of cloth around her head. She said, "Daddy." At least that was what it sounded like. "Lie still. Don't try to talk," Tyler said. "Nothing is going to harm you now." She tried to say something else, but he couldn't understand what it was. She seemed to tire. Her jaw grew slack. Her eyes opened wide and unseeing, then floated shut again. She lay still. Tyler finished bandaging her head and got to his feet. He couldn't help but wonder if he'd made a big mistake bringing her here. He didn't have time to nurse a woman with a broken head, even if the snow was too deep for prospecting. He reached for his coat. He'd better cut some more wood. Once she regained consciousness, he wouldn't be able to leave her alone. He paused. She would probably wake soon. He wouldn't tell her about her father just yet. He didn't think she was strong enough to withstand that kind of shock. Daisy opened her eyes. She sensed she had been unconscious for a long time, yet her vision was startlingly clear. An oil lamp, the wick turned low, provided the only light in the cabin, but she could make out her surroundings with absolute certainty. She didn't recognize anything around her. She was in a strange cabin. She had no idea where she was or how she had gotten here. Somewhere deep in her subconscious, she thought she remembered a rocking motion. She supposed that must have been a horseback ride. She couldn't explain as easily the feeling of safety that kept panic at bay. Lying in a strange cabin, brought here by someone she didn't know, whose purpose she could only guess, she should have been frightened almost out of her mind. She tried to remember where she had been, what had happened, how she got here, who brought her here, and when, but her mind was blank. The last thing she remembered was returning home. She couldn't remember where she had been, but she did know she was going home. She could see the house and all the familiar surroundings. It was cold. It was going to snow soon. But she couldn't remember anything else except a painful explosion. Something terrible must have happened, or she wouldn't be here.